Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my next level friend. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. This is a special edition episode in which I am interviewing artists from around the world as they are stuck at home during the coronavirus lockdown. Today, we are connected with Brianna Hernández Baurichter, all the way from Milwaukee, and we're going to be talking about artists and residency programs as we all go through this pandemic. Brianna, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you for joining us today. You know, we've been kind of chatting a little bit through social media, and it's particularly because you are an artist who were at a residency program when this whole thing began. And I think your story is important because there are many other artists who either were in residency programs or were about to go into a resident program, or they just finished one. So, and they were caught, you know, in the middle of this kind of situation because it's happening around the world. So many artists also were overseas doing programs, now heading back home. So tell us a little bit, what residency program where you are at?
So I was at the Santa Fe Art Institute. They have a thematic residency. Every year is a different theme. And this year I was scheduled for the March cohort.
Okay.
And about like a week and a half in, they had a big group meeting with everybody, and they were like, listen, things are getting really real right now, and we understand if you need to leave, and if you decide to stay, we're asking that you shelter in place. The staff is going to be working from home, we'll check in on you, but basically we're recommending, based off of what the state is saying, based off of what the nation is saying, that don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it was physically, the building we were in was a great place to not go anywhere. Like, it's this huge, beautiful space where your studios are connected to where you're living, which is
great.
A communal kitchen. There's a courtyard, like, it's gorgeous. So that was fine, but it caused a lot of panic, obviously, because who had just gotten there didn't realize how quickly things would escalate. So right away, people started leaving. We were joking that it felt like Survivor because every day somebody new would leave.
That is
and especially like there were a couple folks who were international, and so it was scary for them to try to figure out how do we make these flights work when everything's getting canceled to make sure they get home in time, whether that's the country having deadlines or worrying about overstaying their visa, and then what happens then. So it was a mixture of anxiety and stress of trying to figure out how to pivot, but also comfort because the staff at SFAI were so accommodating to what we needed. Like, listen, you can stay here if you need to. You can stay through April if you need to. Like, make sure that you're checked in on and stocked with like staples. They invited everybody back. They said that if you want to come back in the fall or next year to make up for this not the normal, so you can. And I thought that was great because I had heard about people in other residencies being like kicked out in the middle of it and not having anywhere to go. And I was like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? But they took great care of us. So I ended up staying through the month, just like using the space. A few were still there. And it was great to be able to like use like all the facilities in kind of like this quiet space, even though everything was going on around. And then by the time I left, a lot of things had calmed down with travel, and like things were still getting canceled, but less people were scrambling to leave.
Okay.
So I felt a little bit more secure leaving because there wasn't as many people traveling.
Wow. So you were able to stay there for about a month? Wow. So even, at least they gave you some time to work and do something, besides everything that was happening. But how long was the residency program like designed to be?
So they offer people to go from 1 to 3 months.
Okay.
Originally, I had said, okay, I'm gonna just go for a month because I want to like come back and attend to other things back here. Then once I got there, like the first couple days, I was like, maybe I want to stay. And so I was talking to the director, and we were discussing like extending and what are the options for that, and about doing other things in like the community and everything. that quickly got folded. But there were other people who were supposed to either stay the next month or like it was their second month or something like that. But more like a month and a week.
Yeah. And I think because, particularly at the beginning, there was the uncertainty of how long this will be. I think the longer we are staying there, we're realizing this is not a quick fix, like, okay, May 1st, now everybody goes back to normal, but it's going to be a process, and everything that's stopping and, kind of pulling the wheel again to turn, it's going to take time, for everybody. Residency programs, galleries, institutions, museums, everybody. For us as artists, getting back into the swing of things is going to be a transition period. So I think, now it makes more sense. And I think in the long run now, for everyone who's awake and also trying to get back to their families and being, if you're going to be stuck for a long time, also being with your families and people that you love and things, I think that's important too. Which, so in your case, you are based, so you went back to Milwaukee, right? That's where you're at. So how are you adapting then as an artist now confined to your home?
It's very different. When I was there, it felt like there was a separation between, as far as being self-isolated, there was still a separation between where I'm like living, like going to sleep and doing like personal things versus making work. But even though there were only a handful of people like with me with traveling, I didn't like come into contact with anybody. I'm still just in my house trying to make sure that there wasn't an accidental pickup of something.
Right.
And so it's very different in that there's no separation between like my personal living and working. So that's a weird adjustment, but also just trying to pivot how I'm prioritizing my making. When I was there, it was a lot more physical things like objects and arrangements. And now I'm like, okay, maybe this is a good time to work on some more editing of like video footage or trying to just digitally organize my files so that when I do get the chance to be in more of a physical space, all that's like taken care of. So instead of like, normally I'm like, in a physical space thinking, oh, I don't want to worry about that other stuff right now because it's right in front of me. But now I'm like, well, this is the time.
The other way around, exactly.
Yeah.
And I saw your work the very first time a few years back when I visited Grand Rapids, Michigan. You were doing a huge installation with charcoal, and it was kind of a performance art type of thing. And so you're used to working large and big spaces, and space, is something that you think about when you make your work. And now being confined also, it's also making you think probably, in different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been thinking more about, a lot of people, including yourself, doing these great platforms digitally. And I've been thinking more about how to share previous things digitally in a meaningful way, or how to make art pieces specifically for digital spaces so that when that's not an option, whether that's because everybody's self-isolated or because maybe a certain venue doesn't have funding for like space or technologies, maybe I can put it somewhere digitally that is still connecting with people. So it has been also a brainstorming time for that. Like, if this is the case, then what do I need to do with it?
Right. And I think you bring a great point, which I'm glad you said it, the shrinking budgets. When I actually did recently an episode of Breakfast with Sergio about that, when we all get back to, more normalized type of living, but also the reality that a lot of galleries, museums, and institutions will have smaller budgets, because being stopped without working for so long and so on. So budgets are going to be smaller. So I think as artists, we also need to think about that part too of our projects, right? How we go as we approach museums, galleries, institutions, how we also think about budgeting, be more conscious about our budgets, how we spend our money, how we also spend the money of that others provide to us, right? That will be more important than ever, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about Janet Eckelman's TED Talk about, several years ago when she took a residency in another country and all of her oil paints got held up in customs. And that's how she started doing that like fiber net-based work. Yeah. You just had to like make it work. I'm like, okay, channel Janet.
Yeah. Adaptation, right? We have to. And I think as artists, that's one of the things that, if that's one thing that I think a trait that we all have as being creatives is adaptation, right? Figuring out how we can do the best we can with the tools and the resources that we have at hand, whatever those may be. And I think this is a period for that. And Brianna, I want to ask you also, what's the situation for you guys there in Milwaukee?
It's kind of weird. So I was gone. I was still in Santa Fe when the shelter-in-place order came out.
Okay.
So I thought that I'd be coming back to just what that looked like in other places. But it's this weird mix. Like some people are taking it seriously, some people are not. Like I don't know what the discrepancy is, because they offered drive-through voting nearby. So I went to the drive-through voting. And they said on the website, bring your own mask, bring your own pen, like make sure you're sanitizing or wearing gloves or whatever. And so I did all that, and I stayed in my car, and the person helping me was wearing gloves but not a mask. The people directing like traffic and like making me roll down my window to talk to them were not wearing masks.
Nice.
So I was like, wait, I'm supposed to be like, you're telling me, please bring your own mask, like do your own stuff, but
you're supposed to do that too. Yeah, exactly.
It was very strange. So that's kind of an example of, I feel like, how Milwaukee is handling things, even though cases are increasing and even though there's a shelter-in-place order for the state, there's still some people who are just like still saying, well, I'm going to my favorite restaurant or whatever it is. And I'm like,
defying it. Yeah.
Confused by it. But I've also been, because I just traveled, I've been staying home. So I haven't come into contact with a lot of people other than just seeing what people are posting online.
Right. Exactly. And I think, as this thing kind of expands and so on, I feel that when people feel that it's in their community, that the moment that you have somebody that that's infected or that is going through it, then all of a sudden that it hits them. Oh, it's actually real, right? Versus when you only see it on TV and it looks far away. But I think that's what happened. But unfortunately, again, a lot of people are not really following the instructions, or as you mentioned, and particularly in places where it's not really bad just yet. So, well, Brianna, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And, we hope that this residency program works out for you either in the fall or in the near future as well. Yeah, fingers crossed for you and all the other artists who are also in residency programs. Maybe some of our friends watching right now, you experience something similar to Brianna as well. So reach out to her. We'd love to connect with her. Where can our friends find you, Brianna, both on social media and on your website?
So my website is briannabaurichter.com, and my Instagram is also just at Brianna Baurichter. It's really weird last name. It's Baurichter. I know it's strange.
Awesome. We'll help out. We'll put a kind of like visual link right here under the video. Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you so much. Be safe, be safe, be healthy as well. And we look forward to see what you make in the future.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, our friends, for watching. We'll see you later. And please share this episode with your friends. That will make us really happy.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.